Could we be seeing a trade to get a wide receiver in here?
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's good, everybody? Matt Dery with you. It is a Locked On Lions on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Brand new week, Monday, August 26th, and a Tuesday, August 27th. Thanks for making us your first listen, checking us out wherever you get your podcast. Shout out goes out to our everydayers who are out there that listen or watch each and every day. We appreciate you. Preseason is done. We will do a small, very short recap of what took place on Saturday afternoon at Ford Field. I unfortunately had a family emergency and could not be at the game on Saturday at Ford Field, but certainly watched it, have a few thoughts, but really one guy stepped up that needed to. The rest of the game was, a little bit boring to say the least, and not something that was all that great, but we will get into that. Much more to do here on a Monday Locked On Lions. Cutdown day is tomorrow at 4:00. Some of the Lion cuts already reportedly being sprinkled out. A pretty big name is on that list as well. We will get to that coming up. We got some DJ Reader news. We got a call of the day. We got a wide receiver that is on the trade block that I think fits the Lions perfectly. All of that today here on this Monday edition of Locked On Lions. And we're brought to you today by our friends at FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. All you got to do is visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Follow us on Twitter at Dery Speaks, at Locked On Lions, Matt Dery Facebook fan page. And again, thank you for watching and subscribing. Please do that. It's free on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. All right, I'll go kind of in chronological order here. Lions played their last preseason game on Saturday afternoon against the Steelers at Ford Field. Here's what stood out for me. Two things. Number one, James Houston showed up, stepped up, played in the game, got a sack, got a quarterback hit, and now I think he has cemented himself on this roster. All right, we touched on it last week. Could this be the end for James Houston? Could there be that opportunity where they've tried everything with him the last 2 years? Yes, he's had some injuries. He hasn't flashed like he did his rookie year, and he really can do one thing, and that's rush the passer, and really that's it. Doesn't play the run very well. They tried him at the Sam linebacker spot. It didn't work. But they need as many guys to get around the edge, and get around tackles and get to the quarterback as possible. And this is a guy just 2 years removed from an 8.5 sack season. So he was healthy, hadn't really played much in the preseason, didn't play in the Kansas City game, had some knee issues, stepped up in that game, and I think secured a roster spot. The other thing that stood out to me, besides the Jake Bates missed chip shot, which is not good. How about you guys, the fans? How about standing room only tickets were sold out for a preseason game on a Saturday afternoon of the summer? Second to last, like summer weekend. And you guys showed up in droves. That place was loud. I watched the TV copy and I'm like, wait a minute. This sounds like a regular season game. You had the Steelers first team offense out there. Obviously, they kind of did some work on the Lions backups. But that was incredible. You talk about Lion fans, and you talk about the hunger that a fan base has for a winner, and you talk about fans that show up, win or lose. It's you all. It's Lions fans. I grew up in Cleveland. Many of you already know that. Browns fans are great. Don't get me wrong. That's a Browns town, everything else. But there are certain fan bases that I think are top 5, top 10 that never get talked about. I hate these lists in the summertime. People go, best NFL fan bases. Oh, Dallas, got to be the Cowboys. The Jets, because they've been so tormented, but Jet fans show up and Jet. Man, Lion fans are the real deal. Like I said, I grew up in Cleveland, so I know what Browns fans are all about, and they're awesome. They're intense. All right. Steeler fans, you saw some terrible towels in the stadium on Saturday, but you guys showing up for a preseason game and the Lions selling out the standing room tickets. I mean, imagine what these regular season tickets on Gametime or one of these other apps or just Ticketmaster or anything. Imagine what these tickets are going to go for. But for you guys to just pack that place for a fake game, let's be honest, I'm spending 5 minutes on this thing, is absolutely remarkable and very, very cool. And I think Lion fans should be commended for showing up on a Saturday afternoon in the summer to see a preseason game and to see nobody playing for the Lions. I mean, they sat out like 30 guys. They sat out all the regulars, most of the regulars. So I think that was awesome. And I Ford Field is becoming such a home field advantage that you heard Dan Campbell after the game just talk about. I told the guys, can you believe this? Is there going to be a better atmosphere to play in? And that's where players want to play. Yes, it's about money. Yes, you guys want long-term contracts. They want to eat as much as they can, as fast as they can in that league, because it can be taken away with one injury. These contracts mostly are not guaranteed. But for the Lion fans to show up like that, don't think this is not seen around the league and by players like, wait a minute, I'm going to go play at a place where they sell out preseason games. And I was watching a little bit of Brown Seahawks Saturday night on NFL Network. And in Seattle, they were jamming them in there for that game. And again, more of the regulars played. By the way, Tyler Snoop Huntley, the Browns have like 4 quarterbacks. They've got Deshaun Watson, Jameis Winston, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and Tyler Huntley, former Ravens backup. They've got a ton. They're not going to keep all of those guys. If you didn't like what you saw this past weekend, I thought Hendon Hooker looked better. I did. I really thought Hendon Hooker looked better. So I think Hooker and Sudfeld are staying. I don't think there's any question about it. Oh, yeah. And by the way, and we're going to hear this in our call of the day as well, stop tweeting to me about Jake Fromm, please. I know he came in late in the game in the fourth quarter, even though the Lions told us he wasn't going to play. And he was running around. He was throwing you watch this, you watch like 5 minutes of the end of the game and you go, Jake Fromm. Oh my God, this guy looks great. Can we keep him? No, you're not keeping Jake Fromm. All right. You might keep Jake from State Farm, but you're not keeping Jake Fromm. It was cute and fun for the last preseason game, but let's not get overboard here with the Jake Fromm situation. He wasn't even that good at Georgia. Come on, folks. All right. Monday edition of Locked On Lions. We got to talk about cuts. We got to talk about a possible wide receiver trade and fit. We have our call of the day today. If you want to participate in call of the day, it's been a little bit light lately. Let's go. Speakpipe.com/Dery, Dery podcast page. Speakpipe.com/Dery podcast page to leave a voicemail with me that we can play on the show. And we want to keep them positive-ish. I mean, if you want to rip on me, go ahead, but just no foul language. Keep it clean. Keep it under a minute. We have a call of the day coming up a little bit right here on Locked On Lions. But coming up next, we've got some early cuts already and some DJ Reader news, which we will get to on this, a Monday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. Stick with us. Tell your friends. We have fun. Locked On Lions today brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Seriously, if you're not posting your job on LinkedIn, there's something seriously wrong with you. It's the best place to post a job. Everybody's on there. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you were looking in the wrong place. And on LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Do me a favor. Post your job for free by going to linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Matt Dery back with you. It is a Monday edition of Locked On Lions. Cut down day tomorrow, Tuesday, 4 p.m. is when the Lions have to get their roster down to the 53-man roster. And, of course, start re-signing players on the practice squad, maybe picking up players from other rosters. A lot going into certainly a cutdown day with this football team. Now, I am recording right now around 6 o'clock Eastern time, so things fluctuate and change throughout. Shout out to Jeremy Reisman, Eric Schlitt, and the folks at prideofdetroit.com. That is the best place to go to really kind of get the updates and their tracker on who has been let go. Let's talk about some of the bigger cuts already that have taken place with the Lions. First and foremost, the team has released DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones. This should come as no surprise to Lions fans, although I think it's going to be a surprise to a lot of NFL fans when they see his name and go, oh my gosh, Donovan Peoples-Jones a couple years ago with the Browns, wearing that number 11 in orange and white and brown. He looked great. He was a bust, man. He did not make much of an impact last year at all when they picked him up at the trade deadline. And this year, when the Lions have been desperately searching in the preseason and in training camp and in the joint practices for a number 4 wide receiver, DPJ, the former Michigan Wolverine and Cass Tech star, came up very, very small. There just wasn't much there. And so he's gone. Isaiah Williams is still in the mix as of today. Another wide receiver that I thought played pretty well and looked pretty good in training camp, but just probably not an NFL player, is Caden Davis. Caden Davis was also released today by the Lions. We know about the tight end logjam. All right. You got Sam Laporta. You've got Brock Wright. You've got James Mitchell. You've got Parker Hesse. And you had the Flying Zylstra brothers, Shane Zylstra, until today. Shane Zylstra had a really good camp and a pretty good preseason. And I think that's a guy that's going to be picked up by another team. Good hands, pretty good blocker, just a numbers game right now. Will the Lions carry 3 tight ends with Mitchell and the other 2? Will they carry 4 and have Parker Hesse there, who can also kind of moonlight as a fullback as well? We'll see. But Shane Zylstra out, at least for now. Of course, some of these guys can be re-signed to the practice squad, but Shane Zylstra out and cut today, released by the Lions. Lions also have a lot of running backs they like. We know Jamar Jefferson coming off the bench. We know about Gibson and Montgomery. Come on, Craig Reynolds, Sione Vaki, who didn't even play, by the way, on Saturday. Bam Knight, Zonovan Bam Knight, the former New York Jet, also released today by the Lions. So 4 pretty big names on offense, at least guys that you've heard of: Knight, Zylstra, DPJ, Caden Davis, all gone. A guy I thought had a chance going into Saturday of making the team, and you know the Lions are hoping he doesn't get picked up so they can sign him to the practice squad, is Mitchell Agude, the edge rusher. He had a really, really good, he was good in all the preseason games. Maybe not great in the last one on Saturday, but Agude pushed for a roster spot. And I think he's a guy that can play in this league. He had a pretty good camp, like we said, but really I thought he played well in the preseason games themselves. Mitchell Agude, according to reports, let go today by the Lions. Also, defensive lineman Pat O'Connor, according to Aaron Wilson, gone. Linebacker Ty Summers, who actually was the defensive player of the game on Saturday. Brian Hudson, interior offensive lineman. Cornerback Rashad Wildgoose that the team picked up a couple weeks ago. He's gone, along with the 4 that we mentioned. And also, Lions are going to place Emmanuel Mosley on injured reserve, hopefully going to return maybe November. And then Christian Mahogany, the draft pick and a 7th round draft pick, and also the interior offensive lineman, he's going to be placed on the non-football injury list, the NFI list. So as of right now, there are 79 guys on the roster. They still have 26 cuts to make. You know, they've not touched the quarterback room yet. There's some running backs that need to go. There's some receivers that need to go. Darius Fountain is still in the mix. Mo Alexander is still in the mix. Sean McKeon, the tight end, he should be next. Will they keep 4? Will they keep 3? We'll see. Offensive line, defensive line. You got to figure there's going to be some guys let go tomorrow as well. There has to be. Big question is, of course, will James Houston make the team? I think he will. Isaac Ukwu has played very well. Does he get a spot? What about Matthew Betts? Ben Neiman's roster spot as a backup interior linebacker, just a veteran that knows how to play. Does he make the cut? We'll have to wait and see about that. And then Stephen Gilmore at cornerback. Vildor and Dorsey are making it. Rakestraw and Amik Robertson are making it. Terrion Arnold, of course, and Carlton Davis. Will they keep Stephen Gilmore and have 7 corners on the roster? This is a guy that they kept on the roster all last year. If you let him go, will someone else grab him? Or can you make sure that he's a practice squad guy? And of course, the long snapper battle that I know all of you are dying about, Scott Daly versus Hogan Hatton. Jeff from Lions Wire, Jeff Risdon, gosh, my brain is fried today. Jeff Risdon said on our show weeks ago that he thought Hogan Hatton was going to make the team. If that happens, shout out to Jeff. All right, now, with DPJ gone, Isaiah Williams is still in the mix. Dan Campbell said today, it doesn't matter how big of a body you have. We're going to take the best players at receiver. So that sounded like good news for Isaiah Williams. But according to multiple reports out of Denver, the Broncos have put Tim Patrick on the trading block. They're trying to trade the 30-year-old veteran wide receiver. Mike Kliss of KUSA reports Broncos are parting ways with Patrick, but they want to trade him. Now, again, when reports like this come out, most teams balk at sending any draft capital to a team. They just know they'll pick him up in waivers or out of the release. But Tim Patrick is a guy that fits exactly what the Lions need. A big-bodied outside receiver, 6'4", 30 years old, tough, big. He sounds like a Dan Campbell player. The problem is he never stays healthy. Tim Patrick, the last 2 years, tore his ACL, and then last year went down with an Achilles injury before the season. He caught 5 passes for 44 yards and a touchdown in the first 2 preseason games this year, and did not play in Sunday's preseason finale. Watch the name Tim Patrick. I did see Denzel Mims was let go by the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not sure that's a culture fit for this team based on some of the things I've read about with Mims off the field. But I think that Patrick is a guy that I think the Lions should be interested in. And I know there's other teams, including Pittsburgh, that are looking at him, according to reports. Steelers, and we saw this weekend, Steelers have holes at wide receivers. So they're more desperate than the Lions. And that's saying something, because right now we know it's Jamison Williams, it's Amon-Ra, and it's Khalif Raymond. We think Isaiah Williams. But to have another veteran out there, a guy with good speed and good size, obviously the injuries are a little bit of a factor, but keep an eye on Tim Patrick, that is for sure. Said before about Tyler Huntley as a possible backup quarterback option. If the Lions don't like what they're doing with Sudfeld and Hooker, which I think they do, I think they're going to keep both. But Snoop Huntley could be a guy that could be a backup just about anywhere. And he's in a numbers game in Cleveland in terms of quarterbacks. All right, our call of the day. Let's do that coming up next. Also news real fast. I didn't do this and I should. DJ Reader was activated off the physically unable to perform list as he's coming back from the quad injury. That is great news. Dan Campbell said today, though, don't expect him for the opener. They've been penciling in and kind of sharpening, highlighting in week 2 against Tampa as the probable return for DJ Reader. But this week and next week, if he's working out and he looks like he's healthy and looks like he's ready to play, they're not ruling out a return for him in the opener, which would be incredible. They're kind of targeting week 2 for Reader to be back. I have said this. This is a massive, massive get for this defense, and it's very important, regardless of how well Levi Onwuzurike's played and how highly they think of Kyle Pecco and others along that defensive line. It's imperative that they have a healthy DJ Reader out there playing alongside Aleem McNeil. So that's good news that he's off of the physically unable to perform list, meaning he'll be playing soon and not having to wait 4 weeks to get out there. Now, coming up next, we will get into our call of the day. One of our everydayers checks in on our Speak Pipe voicemail. Stay tuned. But first, Locked On Lions are brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. You heard us talk about FanDuel for months, America's #1 sports book. And yes, you want to get in on the action as we get closer to the start of the NFL season. baseball heating up, pennant races all over the place. You want to get in on it? Go to FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we also have something a little bit different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Free trial. You can get to watch all the games. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. You can cancel anytime. All you got to do is go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. They've got everything: player parlays, player props, everything. It's great. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sports book. It's FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, folks, as we've told you, we want your chime in on this show. That's what I'm all about. I love the audience. I love the fans. Appreciate everybody that checks in each and every day. One of our everydayers checked in as well. Female caller alert, everybody, on our SpeakPipe voicemail system. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Lori Beard. Check it out.
Hey, Matt, this is Lori Beard from Richland, Michigan. I listen to you every day. Thank you so much for such a great podcast, and you are always my first listen about Detroit news. Hey, I want your opinion about, now that we're done with the preseason, what do you think's going on with the backup quarterback situation? I mean, Sudfeld was definitely Dudfeld. Hooker was actually looking good at the Pittsburgh game, and Fromm really looked great at the end of that game too. So just wondering who you think is going to make the cut, and what do you think our backup situation is going to look down the road for the season? Thanks so much again for such a great podcast, Matt, and take care. Go Lions.
Thank you, Lori Beard, Richland, Michigan. I'm going to have to look that up on Google. I don't even know where that is. I know I'll be scolded for that, but thank you, Lori. Great question about the backup quarterback situation. We touched on it a little bit earlier. Let's just say, all right, for bleeps and giggles here, that in week 3 at Arizona, Jared Goff, knock on wood, turns his ankle. All right. Who would I put in the game? I would put Hendon Hooker in the game. I'm ready to see him. I think he has shown over the last 2 preseason games there's a leap, there's a jump. Is he a finished product? No. Is he great? No. Is he going to make a lot of mistakes? Yes. But what we saw against the Steelers and some of the drives he put together was a comfort level that was up and a guy that just needs reps. I think also based upon a safety measure and with the new rules and keeping a quarterback as a third quarterback as an extra guy on the roster, I would keep Nate Sudfeld around. I'm not a fan. Lori called him Nate Dudfeld. But veteran presence, what if Hooker has a couple of bad weeks of practice and you just kind of tell that maybe he's not ready yet? You've got that safety valve and that veteran backup and somebody that's not going to kill you, but he's not going to be great in Sudfeld. So I would keep both. I think the Lions are going to keep both. With as deep as this roster is, they can afford to have 3 quarterbacks on it. I know that's never really been their MO, but I think they're going to do that this time. Jake Fromm was fun, Lori. Jake Fromm was fun on Saturday. Came into the game. All the writers were on Twitter saying, oh, Jake Fromm wasn't supposed to play in this game. Dan Campbell told us he wasn't playing. And he looked great, but he was playing against 5th stringers and bus drivers from Pittsburgh. None of those guys that are on the field are going to be playing NFL football in a few weeks. So I would pump the brakes on the excitement for Jake Fromm. Maybe he gets signed to the practice squad and you have another quarterback on the roster, but he was on the street just a few weeks ago. So that's how I kind of view the backup quarterback situation. I liked what I saw from Hendon Hooker. I did on Saturday. Again, it's preseason. Steelers did have a lot of their regulars out there on defense, at least early in the game. But Hooker he's intriguing. And there's a reason they spent a pretty high draft pick on him. He's not going anywhere. The question is going to be and Jared Goff's been very, very upright and very, very healthy for 2 years, really 3 years. And so it's rare that he misses time. Trying to remember, was the Cleveland game a few years ago when Goff was out 3 years ago? I mean, yeah, but rarely does he miss games. And so I'm looking forward to seeing Hendon Hooker, I think, if something happens to Goff. But am I ever going to sit here and tell you that Hendon Hooker is the guy and they got to get rid of? No, I'm not. We don't play that game. Right? We had some fun with it with our YouTube commenters a couple of weeks ago, but that ain't happening. I think if the Lions are going to be doing any kind of adding on this roster before 4:00 tomorrow, it's what I talked about before with a receiver. And we'll see if one of their linebackers, Malcolm Rodriguez could start the year on PUP. Maybe that's why Ben Neiman makes a team. They have a glut of they have a good depth at linebacker. Maybe a Neiman is a guy you could trade. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I would expect some movement tomorrow. We know Brad Holmes always has something up his sleeve. He's one of the best GMs in the game. We'll see what he does before 4:00 tomorrow. All right, we are back again tomorrow with another episode of Locked On Lions. We will we'll give you the final 53-man roster, at least as of tomorrow at around 6:00. Thanks for making us your first listen, checking us out wherever you get your podcasts here on Locked On Lions.